Welcome to Texas, second largest state in the Union. My claim is that Texas is the most beautiful state, scratch that, place on earth. Here's why. Texas is often touted as being one of the greatest states to live in due to its low cost of living, energy resources, and lack of state income tax. However, it's never really pushed as being a beautiful place to live, as so many others are across the world. In fact, it's usually a negative aspect of the state. This video looks to change that. First, let's look at some of Texas's quote-unquote beauty. Like ghost towns. Houston, we have a problem. Saloons. Longhorns and bluebonnets. Texas barbecue. Giant boots. Cars stuck in the ground. Remember the Alamo. And of course, fracking. But is this beautiful? Well, maybe to some. Remember, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And I'm sure some folks think these things are beautiful. I sure do. Now, how can I convince everyone? Just remember, everyone has an opinion on what is beautiful, whether man-made or natural. But it ultimately is a popularity contest, to a degree. So I think to understand what most people believe is beautiful, we must look at what makes those places beautiful and ultimately come to the conclusion that Texas is in fact the most beautiful place on earth. So let's hop onto a plane and explore the states and beyond. And I think there's no better place to start than one other location that most folks agree rivals Texas as the most moved to state. And that's our good friend Florida. Florida's got Miami Beach, gorgeous beachfront resorts, Florida Keys, with white sandy beaches, pristine golf courses, free-range dolphins, the Everglades, with gators, and of course, amusement parks. But wait, where's Mr. Mouse, you ask? Well, I can tell you that I've been to nearly every place we've explored today. And in fact, many of these pictures I personally took. But I haven't seen everything. So, places I haven't seen had to kind of fill in the gaps. And because of that, there might be some strange angles or see parts of commonly known places due to the ever-evasive fair use doctrine. So thanks in advance for your understanding. So yes, Florida is beautiful, but I think I yearn for a big city, and I happen to think snow is pretty beautiful in moderation. So let's take a look at New York. There's the snow, the hazy Big Apple. I see Rockefeller Center, the Brooklyn Bridge, Niagara Falls, Times Square, Statue of Liberty, and of course, New York style pizza. But I think I want even more historical beauty and scenery. So let's go to Maryland, where we can enjoy the cherry blossoms, swing by the Capitol to see historic monuments, houses that are white, rooms that are oval, then take a seaplane to the Chesapeake Bay or hike the Appalachian Trail. But don't forget the crab cakes. But I think I'd like to see the rugged beauty of something closer to home, like New Mexico. Take a skylift above Albuquerque. Explore the depths of the Carlsbad Caverns. See and experience the Navajos' American art and culture. Then head up to Santa Fe, cross over the Taos Gorge Bridge, and see the Monadnocks rising above the deserts of the Navajo Nation. Those mountains and gorges are nice, but I want even more mountainous beauty and wilderness. So let's head up to Colorado. Let's start in the Mile High City, go deeper to Telluride, then see Gunnison's Black Canyon, Enjoy the vibrant yellow fall tree leaves. Hike Rocky Mountain National Park. Stay in log cabins. Sightsee the wild reindeers. And dine on gamey venison. Those mountains and canyons are beautiful, but I want to see even grander, more beautiful canyons. So let's go to Arizona. See the enormous south rim of the Grand Canyon, or get more immersed in the west rim. Have a picnic, or just climb above it and hang. Or grab a canoe and raft through the Colorado River. Don't forget Sedona's red rocks of the Verde Valley. But I think I'd like to flatten things out a bit and enjoy the beauty of the Great Plains of Nebraska. Enjoy the sunny flowers, country living, fields of roses, farmlands as far as the eye can see, corn, gigantic churches, or swing south to see the red dirt of Oklahoma. Just careful with Tornado Valley. Okay, those plains are great, perhaps too flat. Let's try to split the difference with South Dakota. Here we can explore the beauty of the Black Hills, hike along the pine forest, then head east towards the Badlands and take a look at the past presidents. But I would like to see even more wildlife and mountains, but maintain the calm serenity of the Dakotas. So let's go to Wyoming. Let's take a trip to Yellowstone National Park. Enjoy the hot springs where the buffalo roam, mountainous canyons, waterfalls, pine forest hikes, rivers, and the Great Tetons. But careful for the mountain lions. Love the mountains and wildlife, but I would like to add some of the desert charm, so maybe Utah's beauty will suffice. From the Great Salt Basin to the round rocks, arches, slot canyons, and monuments of Monument Valley, and Zion National Park, to the Great Salt Lake and the mountains of Salt Lake City. But I feel like we're missing a lot of culture and mystique of the South, like Louisiana. Enjoy tugboats through the Louisiana Bayou, canoe, or just stay in the closest thing to Dagobah you can get to on Earth. Or take part in the most festive event of the year in Mardi Gras. Enjoy Cajun cuisine, then take a boat up the Mississippi River and see the hills of the Ozarks. But as nice as those unique ecosystems and cuisines are, I'd like to experience something even larger and more mountainous. So let's go to Tennessee. Travel to Chattanooga and hike to the top of Lookout Mountain to see 7 states at once. Stay in the Chattanooga Choo Choo Hotel. Cross the suspension and natural bridges of Rock City, or experience the giant underground waterfall. Take a break from nature and race NASCAR, or swing up to Kentucky to bet on the Kentucky Derby. Can we get mountain hikes, southern hospitality, and the ocean in one state? Let's try the Carolinas. Here we have the barrier islands from Hunting up to Myrtle Beach, while still experiencing the zip lining through the Smoky Mountains, looking over from Mount Mitchell, or head south to Georgia to see plantation homes, experience Civil War reenactments, or enjoy the Atlanta Aquarium. But the humidity in all these southern regions are a bit much. I'd like to see cooler, more serene nature of the Northeast, like Vermont and New Hampshire. Enjoy the mountains, cool fresh air, and amazing fall foliage. And more fall foliage. And creeks and waterfalls with fall foliage. And valleys of fall foliage. Quaint churches, and of course, Don't forget the Ben & Jerry's ice cream. But with all that fall foliage, we lost the coast again. So let's try Maine. Here you can avoid being shipwrecked with the lighthouse. More lighthouses. Cliffs and rugged coasts in the North Atlantic. Stay at rustic cabins along the island cliffs, or take sail and get yourself some Maine lobster. But this is getting a little too frigid, so let's take a gamble and head to Nevada. Sorry. Let's drive towards the Sierra Nevada mountains, see the Great Basin, Las Vegas MGM Grand, and its wonders of the world recreated, Michelin star restaurants, make a trip over to the Hoover Dam and the hottest place on earth in Death Valley, Cali. Speaking of California, I think that would be a competitor to any beauty across the nation and world. Whether Sequoia, Sherman, or Redwood, California has you set for big trees. It also has golden bridges that are red, Big Sirs, and some of the most unique homes in the Marina District of San Francisco. But California is far too big for just one trip. So let's give it its due and travel northeast to the Napa Valley, where you get rolling hills and vineyards. Then you could hike into the Yosemite National Park to get the mountain views, giant waterfalls, and cascading cliffs. But we're not done with California's beauty yet. Let's head south to enjoy Santa Monica Pier, gorgeous oceanfront homes. Then head to Rocky Laguna Beach and enjoy dining at the Cliff with Cali's famous Baja Tacos. Then look atop Hollywood Hills, poolside in luxurious mansions of the famous. Oh, and don't forget to hit the waves. California wildfires, earthquakes, and exorbitant costs of living makes me want to explore the Pacific Northwest instead. With the sleepless tech city of Seattle, its revolving restaurants and modern architecture, the only downside seems to be the rain. So head south and ride to sailboats on the Oregon coast, or sightsee through the Columbian Gorge, and then head on east to the Idaho Rockies and enjoy potatoes, river rafting, and bears. But I really need to slow things down, and a trip across the Rust Belt just may be what is needed, where you can enjoy the small lakes, woods, covered bridges, and creeks of Indiana. Jog over to Illinois through fields of corn and enjoy Buckingham Fountain and the Field Museum of Chicago, or cross the Ohio River and amuse yourself at Kings Island or Cedar Point, or go even further east to celebrate the Liberty Bell and, of course, Philly cheesesteaks. But now I have a question that's on everyone's mind. Are there enough lakes? Time for a trip to Minnesota, where there are lakes, jumping into lakes, trees next to lakes, the Mall of America. Then head to Michigan's Northern Peninsula and take a dive into the most superior of lakes, or head down to the Glove and speedboat in Gun Lake. I think 1,000 lakes is probably a bit much, not to mention the brutal winters. So I think it's time to head outside the states and see what the rest of the world's beauty has to offer. And no better place to start than next door in Mexico, where you experience some of the most unique architectural style with their villas and rugged Chihuahuan desert mountains south of the Rio Grande, and mariachi singers while you taste one of the most bold and flavorful cuisines on earth. Then take a trip to Tijuana and enjoy the resorts and beaches along the Pacific. But Mexico is a massive country that you could fit over 4 Californias within it, and yet over half of its population lives in just 8% of the country. So let's narrow it down a bit in size by traveling to Costa Rica, a truly tropical paradise. From the beautiful coastal hills to the tropical waterways and exotic ocean view resorts, or take it easy at the Palapas, enjoy Turtle Island and paddle boat with no worries, and take in the many tropical waterfalls. But if waterfalls are what draws you to beauty, then maybe a trip to South America's Venezuela is where to go. Although known for its difficult economic circumstances, the mountainous rainforests are undeniably beautiful. With such enormous cliffs skyrocketing over the canopy, even the waterfalls turn into mist before reaching the ground. And you can literally look over the edge and see clouds and the vast river systems below. But maybe if it's a mix of culture, entertainment, and the exotic you're looking for, then even further south to Brazil is the next destination. Pray to the iconic Christ the Redeemer. Then experience Rio de Janeiro's vast musical scene, a remarkable metropolis with world-renowned steakhouses, and take on one of the most remote, uncharted journeys on arguably the longest river on Earth, the Amazon. Beyond the expansive Amazon rainforest lies the great Andes Mountains, where a little further travel will take you to the llamas and alpacas of Peru. But maybe we traveled a bit too far into the uncharted and need a trip to the familiar but historical landmarks of Europe's Italy. From majestic churches and sculpted statues and fountains to rustic villas and the most recognizable cuisine on earth. The most recognizable river city with Venice gondola rides. Italy's rural fields and mountainous valley villages are matched only by the country's iconic painted chapels. But if medieval architecture is what you find beautiful, then a trip no other than England is in order. One of the greatest empires fill the land with castles, churches, castles on hills, castles on moats, castles along rolling hills running off into the horizon, buildings with clocks on them, more castles, knights guarding stairs, country yards with royal gardens, and not only historic but prehistoric wonder that is Stonehenge. But maybe it's not castles you're after, but more Gothic and romantic beauty that is held in France. So many iconic structures with the Eiffel Tower, Arch de Triomphe, Gothic cathedrals like Notre Dame, and the most elegant cuisine like the souffle, and nothing matches the romantic vibe of French classical paintings, postmodern architecture, rural fields, and quaint provincial country homes. But maybe you desire more rural lifestyle like that of Germany. Enter the Black Forest and grab one of their famous cuckoo clocks. Then take in the classic thatchwork architecture of villas, then grab a beer and Wiener Schnitzel at the local pub. Don't forget some German chocolate before heading back into the forest hills. But perhaps there's a better mix of modern architecture and historical architecture in Spain. See the beautiful castles, churches, monasteries with the traditional stone structures integrity that last the test of time. And the beautiful carvings, statues, contrasted with the modern, yet always able to slow down at the cafe. These countries in Europe are beautiful, but they are familiar, which makes me interested in the exotic regions of the Middle East. Saudi Arabia. Explore the unique architecture of the many Islamic mosques and palaces of Saudi Arabia, and take a chance to see the sandiest deserts on Earth in the empty quarter of the Arabian Peninsula. Ride a camel through the sands, or even have a wedding. Just be sure to eat chicken kapsa for your wedding meal. That may have been exotic, but it doesn't seem like entering a different time like that of the dinosaurs. And you can get nothing like that type of rugged nature than in Ethiopia, Africa. The rugged Simien Mountains, which have been around since prehistoric times, the barren savanna, volcanic basins, cores of the Danakil Depression, and Blue Nile River tributary, and see the real Pride Rock. But these ancient landscapes may be too prehistoric for comfort. Perhaps a trip to the more safari-heavy experience in South Africa is what is desired. Starting with the savanna wildlife, waterfalls and mountains, structured safaris, with unmatched sunsets and a hiker's dream with glorious views in unmatched Drakensberg's range and valleys down to the Cape Cod coast. Just watch out for lions. While we're this far south, we should jog over to one of the most exotic places on Earth, Madagascar. From the mountainous jungles of Marojejy to the stone forests of Singji, witness night canopy bats, many unique forms of baobab trees, amber mountains with rare lemurs and waterfalls. As vast as Africa is, there may be an even more expansive mix of natural beauty and deep cultural identity in Asia. Starting with India. Hindu palaces and temples decorated by statues like the Hanuman. Bollywood dancers of Mumbai and spicy Buna cuisine. Not to leave out the natural waterfalls, colorful valleys, gardens, and the Ganges River. With all the temples, be sure not to forget the goats. But a trip to the Indo-Pacific may scratch the tropical itch while maintaining a significant cultural identity. From Malaysia's tropical jungles of Ipoh and the tea fields of Cameron Highlands to the mountainous waterfalls and coastal waterways of Indonesia, experience the traditional to the modern with views from the Petronas Towers, enjoy curry mee, explore massive caves, giant Buddha statues, temples, and even monkey temples. But a quick trip to the Malaysian Peninsula is a country that is almost entirely a modern metropolis, Singapore. Singapore has some of the most modern art and architecture while maintaining its cultural roots with its cuisine and Chinese New Year celebrations. With pristine landscaping, vibrant festivals, and a tropical flair, Singapore even has a train in their airport. But if any place is comparable to Texas in spirit, it has to be Australia. Welcome to the land down under, with the lush greenery of Melbourne and the coastal cliff boat tours, or take a dive into the Great Barrier Reef and come to Tasmania for their rugged red clay cliffs, or just travel to the outback and shoot the kangaroos. Cross the Sydney Harbour Bridge and experience the infamous Sydney Opera House. Don't forget to give a koala a hug. But 80% of Australia is uninhabitable, yet nearly the size of the entire United States. Maybe New Zealand will give us that remoteness, yet not so unmanageable size. Rolling hills of New Zealand's North Island is a wonderful place for sheep to roam free. Whereas the less habitable mountainous South Island, you can experience waterfalls, the Southern Alps, and more, you guessed it, sheep. But maybe when sheep outnumber humans 5 to 1, it's best to stay far away and travel to perhaps the most culturally significant region on the world with China. North Central China with Beijing's Forbidden City dragon and lion dances, and Xi'an's terracotta warriors enjoy dim sum cuisine, Huangshan Mountains, bamboo forest, and the elusive red panda. Like the US, China is enormous, so to do its beauty justice, we should travel deeper into China's northwest, Inner Mongolia, where the Great Wall of China is dilapidated in the Yin Mountains, up to the coldest, most remote and empty locations on Earth in Mongolia, with the Manchurian grasslands, Nomas huts, and Gobi Desert. Just remember to try some of that Mongolian grill. Now let's travel to eastern China with the foggy hills near Shanghai and enjoy the koi ponds and 70-foot-tall Quan'an statue. Then head south to Yangshuo Mountains and fishing villages. Finally, head far west to the Tibetan Plateau and join the monks. But like Australia and Brazil, China is so enormous, it would be nice to have such a traditional culture and beauty within a smaller area, and I think we could look no further than Japan. With the lush Japanese gardens, serene pagodas, colorful Zen ponds, with the contrast of the big city surpassing New York in modernism, serving the best sushi on earth, and with a quick sidestep, you can visit Korea and their gorgeous structures and bulgogi cuisine and traditions. Okay, so I may have forgotten what is most likely universally considered the most beautiful place on Earth, and that is Hawaii. With its native hula dancers, towering Kula Mountains, waterfalls, lush Kualoa Ranch, Kalaui Volcano, and Waianae Mountain Range. Gorgeous beaches, tiki huts, more waterfalls, historic memorials, and of course, hitting the waves. Seems nothing could be more beautiful than Hawaii, but there is the term landlocked. I feel Hawaii is ocean-locked, so I could see needing a little more. Speaking of more, there are many countries and places that I have not visited, along with many landmarks, such as Siberia's snowfields and oil rigs, Russia and Asia's unique architecture, Afghanistan's rugged mountains, the Middle East's vast sandy deserts, mountain ranges, and modern architecture, the Alps' snowy villages, Iceland's volcanoes, and Greenland's glaciers. So, when did you catch that every photo was of, you guessed it, Texas? Okay, so some shots were more obvious than others, but none were edited beyond what was needed for quote-unquote fair use, or obvious identifiable Texas tells. And I understand the recreation of a landmark is in no way as beautiful or more beautiful than the actual thing. However, let me explain it this way and see what you think. To actually go to every location I appropriated, you would have to travel approximately 61,688 miles at an average of $380 per US flight and an average of $1,200 per international flight. It would cost you at least $34,000 for the flights alone. let alone hotels, food, and accommodations. And the time spent flying would be nearly a week and over 100 hours in the air. On the other hand, if you wanted to drive to all those locations shown here within the Texas border, you'd only have to travel 2,328 miles with the current Texas price per gallon of just $2.56. Your trip total would cost about $238. Even if you drive the speed limit, let's say 60 miles per hour, you could take a road trip to every location in this video in less than 2 days, or approximately 38 hours. Or even quicker, you could take short flights on one of over 300 Texas airports. Some local flights can be as low as $30. Okay, so how does convenience translate to beauty, you may ask? Variety is key. As I said time and time again, some may like mountains, some beaches, some canyons and deserts, some big cities. So a region with all these things within reasonable proximity, comparatively speaking, would be the most ideal. And have I mentioned all the perks of Texas? I think I did. Like the low cost of living, housing, food, gasoline, no state income tax. So not every particular aspect of Texas is the most beautiful of its field, but in totality, the variety and accessibility, whether cost of living or travel, or both natural or man-made beauty, makes Texas the most beautiful place on earth.